I find myself trapped in a cliché story, cast as the substitute heir in a tale about a long-lost child. According to the script, I'm meant to be humiliated by the real heir, watch my fiancée break our engagement, and be thrown out by the family. But I'm rewriting this story. Sure, I'll leave right away, but you're still handing over the shares we agreed upon. Who has time to star in your pathetic soap opera? I casually wave my phone, which contains a goldmine of the company's dirty secrets. The moment the money hits my account, I'm gone and signing a contract marriage with a powerful female CEO. $1 million a month in spending money. What's that? Her ex-lover has returned to town. No problem. Just make sure the final payment clears. Forget all that nonsense about true love. Forget the drama of chasing someone who abandoned you. Forget the heartbreak and the tearful regrets. It's all worthless. None of it matters. Staring at the string of zeros in my bank account, I'm grinning so wide my face hurts. The only other place I've seen this many zeros is on a government weather report. The bowl of artisanal oatmeal in front of me is disappointingly watery. It's obvious the kitchen staff, those masters of flattery, heard that the Harrington family's real son was coming home. They've already started cutting corners on the imposter. I stir the bland mess around with my spoon. My appetite has vanished. I'm still processing the memories that flooded my brain a month ago. A fake heir, a real heir, a powerful family's secrets. Humiliation, a broken engagement, and an ending where I die broke and alone on the streets. My name is Ryan Wells, and I'm the unlucky guy cast as the fake heir. According to the novel's plot, today marks the beginning of the end. Oliver Harrington, the real heir who's been missing for 18 years, is about to be welcomed home. Meanwhile, I, the cuckoo in the nest, am destined to make a series of spectacularly stupid decisions, amplified by Oliver's main character plot armor, until I've completely destroyed my own life. A soft knock on the door. Jeffrey, the butler, appears. His face is impeccably stern as always. Mr. Wells, Mr. and Mrs. Harrington have requested your presence in the study. The title has already shifted from young master to Mr. Wells. I set the bowl down, my movements calm and deliberate. Walking into my closet, I scan the rows of custom-tailored suits and designer casual wear. A small smile plays on my lips. If I'm leaving, I'm not leaving empty-handed. After all, it's a sin to let a good opportunity go to waste. The atmosphere in the study is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mr. Harrington sits behind a massive mahogany desk, his expression grave. Mrs. Harrington is beside him. Her gaze on me carries a complicated mix of emotions tinged with unmistakable distance. Standing next to them is a teenager in a faded pair of jeans and an old t-shirt. There's a clear resemblance to Mr. Harrington in his features. This must be Oliver. He looks at me with a blend of curiosity and awkwardness, barely suppressing the triumphant glee of someone whose life is about to change forever. Ryan, Mr. Harrington begins, his voice devoid of warmth, a subtle warning in its tone. This is Oliver, our biological son. He's had a difficult life. I nod, arranging my features into a mask of appropriate surprise, which then melts into understanding and a hint of sadness. I understand, Dad. Mom. You have to play the part. From now on, Oliver will be living here, Mr. Harrington continues. As for you. I get it, I cut in smoothly, my tone sincere. Oliver has suffered for years out there. Now that he's back, everything in this house rightfully belongs to him. I'll move out as soon as possible to avoid causing any trouble. My seamless acceptance and display of profound understanding leave both Mr. and Mrs. Harrington momentarily speechless. The speech they had prepared is stuck in their throats. Oliver too looks at me with surprise. However, my tone shifts and I lock eyes with Mr. Harrington. Dad, you remember the Harrington Corp shares my grandmother left me when I was a kid, right? And that condo downtown. Those are still in my name, correct? The Harrington family matriarch had adored the original Ryan. She had signed over company shares and property to him when he was just a boy. It wasn't a controlling stake, only 5%, but the annual dividends were substantial. The downtown condo was worth millions. This was all legally his property. In the original story, the protagonist was so devastated he never brought it up, and the Harringtons quietly absorbed it all back. Mr. Harrington's brow furrows. He clearly didn't expect me to bring this up. He hesitates, probably wanting to get rid of me as quickly as possible. Well, there's no rush. We can handle that later. I smile. Oh, but there's a rush, Dad. I draw out the word. You know how it is. A man can't rest easy until the money is in his account. And when a man can't sleep, his mind might wander and his tongue might slip. He could say something unfortunate. My smile doesn't waver. The Harringtons don't support freeloaders, especially not a fake one. Over the years, I was involved in numerous projects for Harrington Corporation. I know exactly where all the bodies are buried. Mr. Harrington's face darkens. Are you threatening me, boy? My gaze doesn't falter. Just then, Mrs. Harrington chimes in, dabbing at her eyes. Ryan, darling, I know this is hard for you. It's breaking my heart. I remember when you first came to us. Just a little boy, so small and grubby, but so sweet it hurt to look at you. She launches into a story about the past, about how much they've always loved me. The truth is, while they raised me, it was with a very specific purpose. The circumstances of the real heir's disappearance were murky at best. The Harrington family has many enemies, and over the years, I, the fake heir, served as the perfect decoy, absorbing misfortunes meant for the real one. I was kidnapped, bullied, and targeted. It's a miracle I survived it all. Living in this house meant living under a microscope. If my grades slipped, I'd be forced to kneel outside for hours, whether it was raining, freezing, or scorching hot. Once I was old enough, I was put to work at the company like a corporate drone, working insane hours for no salary. They treated me worse than an unpaid intern. But the original Ryan was conditioned to accept it. His values were so warped he thought it was all a sign of the Harringtons' high expectations for him. Of course, their strategy of pairing every punishment with a hollow compliment helped. They were constantly whispering in his ear about how good they were to him. Is it any wonder his mental health was a wreck? But I'm not that weak-willed kid. A few crocodile tears and emotional appeals won't work on me. Moo, I rush over, letting out a theatrical wail and wiping my face all over her expensive silk blouse. She flinches with disgust but forces herself to endure it. Then I won't leave you, I declare. I'll stay and take care of you and Dad forever. Before Mrs. Harrington can respond, someone else objects. Oliver, the real heir, scowls. No way. You've been freeloading for years. You can't stay. He turns to his mother. Mom, I'm your real son. Don't be a fool. Get rid of him. As Mrs. Harrington opens her mouth to say something, I pull away abruptly. Oliver's right. I shouldn't occupy this position any longer. Glad you know your place, Oliver scoffs. I look back at Mr. Harrington, who still seems hesitant. You aren't thinking of denying me what's mine, are you? I lean in and whisper with a smile. He looks cornered. What kind of nonsense is that? Of course I wouldn't take a kid's money. Great. I walk over to a nearby sofa and pick up my phone, then gasp dramatically. Oh no, I was live streaming this whole thing to my private account and I forgot to turn it off. Whoops. I glance at Mr. Harrington. I guess that means the last few minutes are. He jumps to his feet, about to lunge for my phone. I hold it up just out of reach and he freezes. Of course it's yours, he says through gritted teeth. Thanks, Dad, I say, flashing a grateful smile. Also, the small investments I made over the years with my allowance and dividends are in my personal accounts. I'll be managing those myself. Mr. Harrington waves a dismissive hand, not paying much attention. He probably assumes that 20-something small investments don't amount to much. He's wrong. Before this life, I was a finance guy. I used that seed money to play the market and get in on a few early-stage startups. The number in my account is now substantial. It's not Harrington family-level wealth, but it's more than enough for me to live very, very comfortably. And my engagement to Ms. Whitmore, I look at Mrs. Harrington. I don't think Sophia and I are a good match. It's probably best to call it off. After all, Oliver is the rightful heir to the Harrington name. I'm sure the Whitmores would prefer their daughter be married to him. I let the suggestion hang in the air. Mrs. Harrington's expression shifts. I've clearly hit a nerve. The Whitmores are important business partners. The marriage alliance should naturally be with the true heir. Ryan, it's good that you can think so maturely, she says, her tone softening considerably. This is going more smoothly than I expected. Back in my room, I immediately start gathering my financial documents and contact my lawyer to handle the transfer of the shares and property. I also move all my liquid assets into new accounts. My phone rings. The name Sophia Whitmore flashes on the screen. My nominal fiancée, a classic trust fund princess who has never shown me an ounce of kindness. I answer, put it on speaker, and continue packing. Ryan Wells, how dare you suggest ending our engagement? Who do you think you are? If anyone's going to end it, it's me, Sophia Whitmore. Her shrill voice screeches from the phone. News travels fast. It seems the Harringtons are eager to push me out. My voice is calm with a lazy smile in it. You're right. I'm not worthy of you, Miss Whitmore. That's why I'm getting out of your way. You and Oliver look great together. A match made in heaven. I wish you all the best. There's a stunned silence on the other end. She clearly didn't expect this reaction. Finally, she sputters. You. This Ryan wishes you happiness, I say cheerfully, then hang up and block her number. Perfect. Peace and quiet. As I drag a single lightweight suitcase out of the Harrington mansion, no one is there to see me off. The setting sun casts a long shadow behind me. I don't care. The world is wide. I have money and time. Only a fool would stick around to be a side character in their family drama. I check into a luxury hotel suite and enjoy a few days of glorious solitude. No one to please. No ridiculous wealthy heir persona to maintain. It's bliss. A few days later, I attend a business reception. I was invited as a private investor, mainly to scope out new opportunities to make more money. The event is a sea of champagne flutes and fake smiles. I'm nursing a glass in a quiet corner, utterly bored, when my eyes land on her. Natasha Monroe, the CEO of Monroe Enterprises. She's wearing a sharply tailored black suit. Her expression cool and refined, radiating an intimidating, unapproachable aura. She's speaking with a few men who look like banking executives. Her demeanor polite but distant. I remember her. She was mentioned briefly in the novel. A brilliant business prodigy with a completely blank love life. Apparently, she had a long-lost love, the one that got away, living overseas. A switch flips in my head. I straighten my already perfect shirt collar, pick up my champagne flute, and walk directly toward her, weaving through the crowd. Ignoring the men trying to get her attention, I stop a respectable distance from her. Natasha looks up, her eyes calm and appraising. Miss Monroe, a pleasure, I say, raising my glass. And you are? Her voice is crisp, like ice water. Ryan Wells. You might have heard of me, the one who just parted ways with the Harrington family. I introduce myself with complete frankness. A flicker of mild surprise crosses her face, quickly replaced by understanding. The story of the Harrington heirs was no secret in these circles. Is there something I can help you with? She asks, her words concise. I smile, lean in slightly, and lower my voice so only she can hear. I hear you've been having some family-related troubles recently, that you need a suitable partner to fend off unwanted complications. I think we can make a mutually beneficial arrangement. In the original story, after being thrown out, the fake heir was destitute. The real heir made sure no reputable company would hire him. He ended up washing dishes in a restaurant and driving for a rideshare service at night. One night, he picked up Natasha Monroe. It turned out he bore a striking resemblance to her old flame. At the time, Natasha was being relentlessly pressured by her family to get married. She had just had a huge fight with them and was drowning her sorrows at a bar when she ran into him. He was the perfect candidate. He was handsome, and he had proven his competence working on several impressive projects at Harrington Corp., a fact her parents would appreciate. They cared more about talent and capability than family name. He was capable yet easy to control. And most importantly, he looked like the one that got away. Having said my piece, I watch her reaction. Better to offer my services now and seize the initiative than wait for her to find me. Natasha's expression finally shows a subtle shift. She studies me for a few long seconds, as if calculating my value. The satisfaction in her eyes, however, is hard to miss. "And why should I choose you?" she asks. "Because I know exactly what this is, and I need the job." I meet her gaze without flinching. "Besides, I clean up well. As a high-value, low-maintenance accessory, I'm a pretty good deal." Natasha is silent for a moment. Just as I'm thinking I've miscalculated and she's about to call security, her lips part. "My office. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Done." Natasha Monroe's office is even colder than she is. A stark palette of black, white, and gray. Everything in its perfect place. The contract marriage is for a term of 1 year. After all, her old flame is due back by then. The terms, $500,000 a month as an allowance and a separate residence provided. My job is to act as her husband whenever required, attending events and dealing with her family. I am to play the role of a devoted partner. No sharing a bed, no interfering in each other's private lives. The contract terminates automatically at the end of the year. "You're very efficient, Miss Monroe," I say after scanning the terms and signing my name with a flourish. And so I move into the apartment Natasha provided and begin my career as a contract husband. To be fair, she's an excellent boss. The pay is great and she's low maintenance. Outside of necessary appearances, she almost never contacts me. We're like strangers who happen to be roommates, maintaining a polite, professional distance. Occasionally late at night, I'll bump into her in the kitchen getting a glass of water, a shadow of exhaustion on her face. I'll give a slight nod and head back to my room. No need for small talk. Over time, some interaction is inevitable. I accompany her to family dinners to fend off relatives asking when they're going to have kids. I run interference at corporate galas, blocking business associates trying to get her drunk. Sometimes when she works late, her driver will call me and I'll be tasked with carrying a slightly tipsy CEO home. She's a quiet drunk. She doesn't make a scene. She just gets quieter than usual, sometimes leaning against the car window, silently watching the city lights stream by. Her profile, illuminated by the neon glow, looks almost fragile. One time, her chronic stomach issues flared up. She was pale, doubled over in pain, and covered in a cold sweat. I happened to be home. Without a second thought, I piggybacked her and ran to the nearest hospital. I handled everything, registration, picking up prescriptions, and watching over her as the four dripped. When she woke up, she saw me asleep, slumped over the side of her bed. Her expression was complicated. "Thank you," she said. It was the first time she'd spoken to me in a tone that wasn't strictly business. I rubbed my tired eyes and grinned. "Don't mention it, Miss Monroe. Ensuring the health and safety of my employer is part of the contract." I rubbed my hands together. "Of course, if you feel really guilty, a bonus would be the best way to show it. I'm not picky." I think she almost smiled, but managed to suppress it. She just turned her head away and let out a soft, "See, this boss is great." The atmosphere between us seemed to change just a little. Our relationship was no longer so distant. She started smiling more often, complaining to me about her workload and the old-fashioned board members who gave her hell. I would just pour her a cup of hot tea and listen quietly, nodding at the right moments. Sometimes when I was bored, I'd cook. Natasha was shocked that a supposed trust fund kid knew his way around a kitchen. "Try it," I said, handing her a fork. She hesitated but took it. After one bite, her eyes lit up. From then on, she would drop not-so-subtle hints about wanting me to cook for her. "No problem. But it'll cost you." To my surprise, she'd nod while chewing. "Done." I was stunned. For real. "Best boss ever," I praised. A pleased smile spread across her face. After that, she became even more brazen. She used to visit the apartment maybe once a month. Now she was there 3 times a week, using the excuse that it was closer to the office. One time I joked, "Shouldn't you be paying rent then?" She laughed. "What? You're my property too. Why would I pay rent?" I just smiled and said nothing. She then stole the foot basin I had just prepared for myself, filled with carefully selected herbal remedies. "This is mine too." She had changed. She smiled more, which was good. A happy boss is better than a perpetually scowling one. A happy boss might even give out bonuses. I needed to start dropping hints. I scurried over to her like an eager puppy. "Boss, how about a massage? My skills are top-notch." I would never have dared say this before. In the past, getting too close would have earned me a death glare. But now she just shrugged, closed her eyes, and settled back comfortably. That was my cue. With a slightly devious grin, I got to work, my hands starting on her shoulders while my mouth started hinting about a raise. "Done," Natasha said, her voice full of authority. I could feel my excitement building. "You're the best, boss." She seemed to enjoy the compliment, her smile widening. Another raise. Unbelievable. My hands worked even more diligently. Then one day, Natasha said to me, "Ryan, would you consider being my executive assistant?" Her gaze was sincere. "It's a waste of your talents to be doing this." I scoffed internally. Talents. I have only one goal in life, to be a kept man and make money while lying down. Actually work? No way. $2 million a month, she offered. Deal. And just like that, I became Natasha Monroe's executive assistant, handling everything from her schedule and meetings to project planning. She was deeply satisfied with my performance. My sudden appearance in a high-level position had caused some resentment. But after a few successful projects, the dissenters had to admit I was good. Someone, however, was not happy. My dear brother Oliver Harrington seemed to have a problem with my success. Ever since the news of my marriage to Natasha broke, he'd been blowing up my phone. "How is this possible? How could someone like you be with Natasha Monroe? I don't believe it." I counted 542 texts. Anyone who didn't know better would think he had a crush on me. And now here he was, looking for trouble. I was at the mall with Natasha. She had gone to the restroom and I was waiting outside. Well, look who it is. If it isn't the great Mr. Wells." The sarcastic voice belonged to Oliver Harrington. He sauntered over, flanked by a group of guys who used to be my sycophants. One of them sneered. "Hey, you can't call him that anymore. He's the fake, remember?" He laughed and the others joined in. So I laughed too. Their laughter died. They stared at me, confused. "What are you laughing at?" one of them demanded. I shrugged. When I see a few dogs barking and wagging their tails at me, am I supposed to yell back? Their faces turned ugly. Oliver's voice was low and angry. "Don't get cocky. You just latched onto Natasha Monroe. Let me tell you, you're just a toy to her. You really think you're something special?" The jealousy was practically radiating off him. It was no secret he had a thing for Natasha. He had tried to accidentally run into her on several occasions, only to be met with a cold, dismissive stare. Even announcing his status as the true Harrington heir had only earned him a cold shoulder. And now I was the one close to her, living with her. He was green with envy. I just smirked at him. Better to be a toy than someone who can't even get played with. His face turned a shade darker. The guy was a joke. After returning to the family, he did nothing but loaf around. The Harringtons had high hopes of grooming him to take over, but he managed to scare off every tutor they hired. I heard Mr. Harrington was so angry he ended up in the hospital. And lately, it seemed Harrington Corp was in serious trouble. Mr. and Mrs. Harrington had started sending me vague, sentimental messages, hinting that they missed me. They were trying to lure me back, saying the company couldn't survive without me and that it would all be mine one day. Did they take me for a fool? They only came crawling back because their golden boy was a bust, and they saw me cozying up to the far more powerful Monroe family. I brought my attention back to the present. Oliver was fuming. Enjoy it while it lasts. Pride comes before a fall. A fall. I stepped closer to him. He flinched and stumbled back. What? What do you want? I chuckled and clapped him on the shoulder. You know, that talk of a fall reminds me of something. His expression soured. How's that injury from last week healing up? I squeezed his shoulder and he winced. Next time you want to rough me up, hire professionals. Doing it yourself is just tacky. Last week, He and his buddies had tried to jump me on my way home, wearing ski masks like a bunch of amateur thugs. But years of kickboxing training weren't for nothing. I made short work of them and tossed them into a dumpster. Oliver looked mortified. I gave him a little shove and he stumbled back into his friends. "You," he sputtered, pointing a finger at me. "Is there a problem here?" A cool voice cut through the tension. Natasha, smelling faintly of expensive perfume, appeared at my side. Oliver's demeanor changed instantly. His parents must have given him strict orders, probably after cutting off his allowance. "Miss Monroe, Are you here to harass my husband?" Natasha asked flatly. Oliver was dumbfounded. Natasha, who had never given him the time of day, was now being so protective of me. He forced a laugh. "Of course not. We were just..." "Then get lost," Natasha said, linking her arm through mine. Oliver's face was a mask of humiliation. He turned and stormed away, his cronies scrambling after him. "Let's go." Feeling her arm still linked with mine after they were gone, I cleared my throat. Natasha turned to me, a flicker of concern on her face. "Is your throat bothering you?" Seriously. Was she still in character? Just as I was about to say something, another figure rushed toward us. A familiar one. Sophia Whitmore. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she stared at Natasha's arm looped through mine. "Ryan, I can't believe you're this kind of person," she accused, tears welling up. "You told me you'd take care of me forever. You broke your promise." Natasha. "And you, I'm Ryan's fiancée," Sophia yelled. When the news of my marriage to Natasha broke, Sophia had spammed me with messages just like Oliver. They started with mockery and warnings about being used, then shifted to confusion and anger. What was this new act? Natasha scoffed. "All right, I remember you." Sophia's face brightened. "Good. Now let him go." "So what?" Natasha cut her off mercilessly. "Your engagement was voided a long time ago. Your fiancé is that pathetic guy who just ran off. Why are you still clinging to my Ryan?" Sophia tried to argue. "But And who gave you the right to scream at me in public?" Natasha's voice dropped, becoming dangerously cold. "Your own father shows me more respect than that." Sophia deflated completely. She turned her tear-streaked face to me, her voice pleading. "Ryan, the truth is, I've always loved you. I was only cold to you because I was shy. You were so perfect, and I felt so inadequate. I was afraid you'd leave me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't want to marry that other guy. I don't." She begged. "I thought when you were thrown out, I could finally be the one to help you, to be your equal." She looked at Natasha. "Can you please just give us a moment alone? Please." Natasha sighed and glanced at me. I shook my head. "Trying to play games in front of my boss? That's just unprofessional." I looked at Sophia, my voice cold. "If you think constant mockery and contempt is your way of showing love, then there's nothing more to say. We have nothing to discuss." I took Natasha's arm and turned to leave. Behind me, I could hear Sophia's heartbroken sobs. Outside in the cool air, Natasha asked, "Are you sure you don't want to go back? I won't dock your pay." I opened the car door for her. "No need. I never go backward." Natasha just nodded, a thoughtful look on her face. Time flew by. As the one-year contract neared its end, Natasha's legendary old flame, Cameron Wright, returned. The power of the novel's plot began to assert itself. Natasha started coming home less and less, and when she did, she seemed distracted. One weekend morning, she sat across from me, sipping her coffee. Her tone was flat, devoid of emotion. "Cameron is back in the country. Our contract, we won't be renewing it when it expires next month." I was in the middle of a bagel. I finished chewing, took a gulp of coffee, and said, "Okay, understood, boss." I gave her a thumbs up. "I'll start packing my things. Just make sure the final payment hits my account." "Okay." Natasha stared at me, searching my face for some other emotion, but found nothing. She looked down, her long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. "Fine. I was efficient. I started packing that same day. I didn't have much, and most of it was bought with her money anyway, so leaving it behind was no big deal. I stuffed my personal belongings into the same suitcase I had arrived with. When Natasha came home that evening, she found me standing in the living room with my suitcase. "So soon?" she asked, a slight frown on her face. "Mr. Wright is back." "It wouldn't be appropriate for me to stay here," I said with a considerate smile. "Best to avoid any misunderstandings that might get in the way of you two rekindling things." Natasha opened her mouth as if to say something, but all that came out was, "You can stay in the apartment until the contract officially ends." "No, I've already found a new place," I declined politely. "Miss Monroe, it's been a pleasure doing business with you. If we see each other around, let's still be friends." I held out my hand. Natasha looked at it, hesitating for a second before shaking it. Her fingertips were cool. "Goodbye, Ryan." "Goodbye." I dragged my suitcase into the elevator without a backward glance. Just as the door slid shut, I saw her through the closing gap, still standing in the same spot in the vast, empty living room. She looked lonely. Not my problem. She's just my ex-boss. My new place was another sprawling penthouse in the city center, purchased with the money I'd leveraged from the Harringtons. I was a free man again. I spent my days playing the stock market, scouting new projects at industry events, and generally living a life of leisure. It was glorious. Occasionally, I'd hear rumors about Natasha and Cameron, a golden couple reunited, a potential merger between Monroe Enterprises and the Wright family empire. I scoffed at it. I had met Cameron. He had the suave act down, but you could see the cold calculation in his eyes. I wondered if Natasha could handle him. Then again, not my business. These were her choices. I was enjoying my life, but I couldn't seem to avoid Natasha. She would coincidentally be in my neighborhood. Then she would casually tell me about her recent troubles. "I feel like Cameron has changed," she said, holding a wine glass as we sat in a small bistro. "He's become someone I don't recognize." I kept looking around nervously. Cameron was a notoriously jealous man. If he saw us, he'd cause trouble for me again. Last week, I was invited to a charity gala and saw Natasha there. She was sitting alone in a corner, looking dazed and holding her stomach as if in pain. Cameron, meanwhile, was working the room, schmoozing with high-powered executives, a greedy look on his face. I knew the story. Cameron had returned from abroad and was desperate to make a name for himself, to step out of the shadow of his more successful older brother. He looked down on small investments and was obsessed with landing a major deal. Natasha had pulled strings to even get him into this event. I sighed and prepared to leave. We could be friends, but I hated drama. I was about to slip away when some idiot called out my name like a bloodhound. Natasha's head snapped up and her eyes found me. "Ryan." Her face lit up as she walked toward me. So much for a clean getaway. We chatted for a few minutes while I racked my brain for an excuse to leave. Suddenly, I felt a cold stare on me. Cameron was walking over, positioning himself between me and Natasha. Perfect. My exit strategy had just arrived. His voice was a low, theatrical rumble. A replacement should know his place. "Now that I'm back, don't think you can still hang around." "Mr. Wright, a pleasure." "You look as dashing and debonair as the rumors say," I cut him off, leaving him momentarily stunned. "You and Miss Monroe are a perfect match. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and success." "Well, I must be going." I turned and made a beeline for the exit. Natasha took a step as if to follow but stopped herself. At the door, I glanced back. Cameron was muttering something to Natasha and handed her a slice of mango cake before eagerly rejoining his conversation with the executives. Ah! Didn't he know she was allergic to mango? So unprofessional. Doesn't he know that all powerful CEOs in these stories have some kind of convenient medical issue like an allergy or a weak stomach? Natasha clearly did. Oh well, not my problem. I didn't see Cameron, so I let out a long breath. Natasha put down her glass, her eyes fixed on me. "I know you're the one who had the waiter bring me stomach medicine at the gala that night." I checked my watch. It was getting late and she was still trying to pull on my heartstrings. I sighed. What a classic capitalist. Still trying to emotionally manipulate me for some free labor. She wanted to have her cake and eat it too. Keep her old flame to satisfy her past desires and keep me on the hook because I catered to her needs. The woman was insatiable. Look at the facts. It was a business transaction. She paid. I provided a service. It was simple. Why did she have to make it so complicated? I was getting annoyed. If I were an ugly guy or just a butler, would she be laying on the sentiment so thick? If Cameron actually paid attention to her needs, would she be here with me? To her, I was just the second best option, a convenient fallback. She was only interested because I'd been good to her. The moment someone better came along, her attention would shift. Unless she had actually fallen for me. Hilarious. I stood up. Ms. Monroe, it's getting late. A lonely expression crossed her face as she stood up as well. Yes. I waved with a smile. Let's grab dinner sometime. I gotta run. I turned to leave. How about now? Her voice came from behind me. Damn my big mouth. Natasha grabbed my sleeve. Let's go to your place. I've been craving your cooking. My mind raced, searching for an excuse. Just then, a cold voice cut through the air. Natasha. I could have cheered. It was Cameron. He walked over, his eyes flicking from me to her. I was wondering where you went. Mom and Dad want to discuss the wedding plans. We need to go home. Natasha's parents had found out about our one-year contract after we divorced. They had just sighed, disappointed in their daughter's choices. They never liked Cameron anyway, but Natasha treated him like a treasure. Before they left that day, they had pressed a credit card into my hand. 10 million. Sweet. Cameron shot me a cold glare. So hopeless people should stop dreaming. Don't reach for things that are out of your league. He probably expected me to get angry or run away in shame. Instead, I beamed at him. Great. You two have a good talk. Bye-bye. I spun around and practically sprinted away. Their drama was for them to solve, but I couldn't stay here anymore. Not with Natasha, coincidentally, running into me every other day. So I moved. I relocated to a small, charming coastal town. The air was clean. The scenery was beautiful. I had more than enough money to last several lifetimes. Even if I just lay in bed all day, the interest alone was racking up zeros. But I needed something to do, so I opened a flower shop. It was a long-held dream of mine. Looking at the vibrant, beautiful flowers always lifted my spirits. I opened and closed whenever I felt like it. Sometimes I'd sleep in until the afternoon. I was known around the neighborhood as the owner of the flower shop with the weird hours. His arrangements were unique and beautiful, and the flowers themselves were so fragrant you could smell them from down the block. Life was peaceful. I'd give flowers to the neighbors and my days passed in quiet contentment. Then one night, after a mind-numbingly boring networking event, I was taking a walk when a sudden downpour started. I didn't have an umbrella and took shelter under a bus stop awning. The street was a blur of rushing pedestrians. And then I saw her, a girl in a cheap cartoon print poncho, clutching a thick stack of flyers. She was soaked, her hair plastered to her forehead. She looked miserable, but her eyes were bright, like stars washed clean by the rain. A few sketchy-looking guys swaggered over, whistling and surrounding her. Hey there, little lady. Handing out flyers? Why don't you hang out with us for a bit and we'll help you out? The girl clutched her flyers tighter and took a step back, her eyes wary. Please leave me alone. I didn't want to get involved, but seeing her hands tremble slightly despite her brave face, I sighed and walked over. Gentlemen, harassing a young woman, not a good look, I said, stepping between her and the creeps. I might have been wearing a soaked suit, but my height and a cold stare still carried some weight. The guys looked me over, muttered a few curses, and decided I wasn't worth the trouble. They shuffled off. The girl let out a breath of relief and looked up at me, her eyes shining even brighter. Thank you. Don't mention it, I nodded, ready to go back to waiting for the rain to stop. I hadn't eaten much at the event, and my stomach chose that moment to let out an embarrassing growl. Her eyes lit up. She reached in her bag and pulled out a steamed bun, still warm and carefully wrapped in a plastic bag. She held it out to me. "Here, you should have this. I just bought it. I haven't touched it." The bun was white and fluffy, steam rising from it in the cold night air. It smelled wonderful. I looked into her bright, earnest eyes and took it. "Thanks." The rain started to let up. She took off her poncho, revealing a faded t-shirt and jeans underneath. She neatly rearranged her flyers, gave me another smile, and ran off into the drizzle. After that, I started seeing her everywhere. She worked at a coffee shop where I met with clients. She was a promoter at a mall I happened to be walking through. Her name was Amy Brooks. She told me she was from a small town, working to save up for community college. She was always full of energy, like a resilient sunflower fighting to grow in a concrete jungle. She would tell me funny stories from her job, complain about difficult customers, and talk about her dream of getting a degree, her eyes sparkling. She'd treat me to street food, and I'd treat her to fancy dinners in return. At first, she refused, saying it was a waste of money. I told her it was an investment she'd have to pay back when she made it big. Only then did she shyly accept. I helped her pay off her back rent and enrolled her in a reputable college prep course. She cried, refusing the money. So I told her it was a loan with interest. She finally laughed through her tears and promised she would pay me back. We spent more time together. She picked up another job helping me out in my flower shop. "These flowers are so beautiful," she'd exclaim, her eyes wide with wonder. I'd be lounging in my chair, scrolling through my phone. "Pick whichever one you like." But she would just smile, gently lean in to smell the blossoms, and say, "Thank you, Ryan." I wouldn't reply, just keep my eyes on my phone. Amy was a fast learner. Every day she would excitedly share little stories from her life. She was a whirlwind of positive energy. Life went on like this. Or did it? Maybe it all changed on that one day. That day, I went to the mall to pick her up from work without telling her. As I approached the service corridor, I heard her voice mixed with another girl's and peals of laughter. "So, how's it going with the fake heir?" "The bet ends in a month," a girl asked. It was Amy's voice that answered, but the tone was different, light, smug, and careless, a side I had never heard before. "What's the rush? Don't worry, I've got this in the bag. You're amazing. Your act is so convincing." "Of course. Do you know who I am? All I have to do is act pure and pitiful, and he's hooked." Amy laughed. "Men fall for that every time. The strong but innocent girl who needs saving. It's their kryptonite." They kept laughing. I stood there in the hallway, unseen, my expression blank. So that was it. I had been planning to let things keep drifting for a while, to see where this quiet, peaceful life would go. But after hearing this, the game was over. I turned around and walked out of the mall without looking back. The next day, Amy messaged me, asking to meet. She said she had just been paid and wanted to treat me to dinner to thank me. I chose the location, a high-end restaurant she could never afford on her own. She arrived in a new but cheap-looking dress, sitting stiffly across from me, clearly out of place among the soft lighting and polished silverware. "Ryan, this place, it must be so expensive," she whispered. I swirled the red wine in my glass and smiled. "Don't worry. You're not paying." She froze. Something in my tone finally reached her. I raised my glass slightly. "Miss Brooks, or should I call you Miss Lancaster? Heir of the Lancaster family from Connecticut, slumming it to win a bet with your friends. How's that going for you, Amy?" Her face went pale instantly, all the warmth drained away. How did I know?" I leaned back casually, my smile never faltering. I pointed to the necklace peeking out from under her collar. "If you're going to play the role of a poor girl, you should at least commit to the costume. That necklace is worth a small fortune. You were wearing it the night we first met in the rain." Her hand flew to her throat, fingers brushing the pendant. Her eyes trembled. "I didn't think much of it at first," I continued calmly. "But then I started seeing you everywhere. Too conveniently. And your ID, your landlord, the prep course, all checked out a little too cleanly for someone supposedly struggling to survive." Amy opened her mouth, then closed it again. So I did a bit of digging. The Lancasters are very well known in certain circles. I saw you in a family photo at a charity auction portfolio. Same eyes, same necklace, different clothes. You hid it well, but not well enough. Her lips trembled. It's not what you think. Oh. I tilted my head. So you weren't pretending to be a hard-working, poor girl for the sake of a little game. You and your friends didn't make a bet about reeling in the fake heir and making him fall for you. Tears welled up in her eyes. At first, it was just a joke. They said I wouldn't be able to do it, that I could never live like an ordinary girl. I was angry, so I took the bet. But then I met you for real, Anne. And you kept going. I cut in gently but firmly. Because it was fun. Because the act worked. Because I kept paying your rent and bills and tuition like some convenient cash machine. She shook her head desperately. No, I really. Amy. I set my glass down quietly. You don't need to keep performing. The show's over. The bet is done. You won. Her tears spilled over. Ryan, please listen. I know I was wrong, but I really did come to like you. I wasn't faking everything. The street food, the flowers, the late-night talks, those were real. I didn't know how to tell you the truth. I was scared you'd hate me. You're right, I said. I do. She flinched as if I had slapped her. You think you're the first person to treat me as a temporary role in their story? I asked quietly. The Harringtons used me as a shield for their real heir. Natasha used me as a contract prop to fend off her family. You used me as a bet. Different packaging, same pattern. I'm not like them, she whispered. I'm really not. But you are, I replied, my voice calm. Because in the end, you all made the same choice. You decided my feelings, my life, my time were tools. Just convenient props. She reached across the table, but I leaned back out of reach. I'll pay you back, she said quickly. All the money for the rent, the classes, the dinners. Everything. I'll work as long as it takes. I'll sign a contract, anything you want. Just, don't walk away like this. I looked at her for a long moment, then shook my head. You don't owe me money, Amy. Consider it tuition. Tuition. For the lesson. I stood up, smoothing my jacket. Next time you decide to play with someone's life for fun, think a little further ahead. People aren't props. Even fake heirs get tired of being used. Her hands were clenched so tightly around her napkin that her knuckles had gone white. Ryan, do you really feel nothing at all? Not even a little. I smiled faintly. I felt enough to walk away before it got worse. That's growth. She looked like she wanted to chase after me, to grab my sleeve the way Natasha used to beg for one more chance. But this time, I didn't give anyone the opportunity. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving her behind amid the soft music and flickering candlelight. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. I took a slow breath, letting it settle in my lungs. Somewhere, far away, someone was probably scripting another scene for me to stumble into. Another role. Another trap. Too bad for them. This time, I was the one writing the story. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. I took a slow breath, letting it settle in my lungs. Somewhere, far away, someone was probably scripting another scene for me to stumble into. Another role. Another trap. Too bad for them. This time, I was the one writing the story. I returned to my flower shop and lived quietly for several months. The seasons changed. Summer turned to autumn, then winter. My little shop became a local fixture. I made friends with the elderly couple who ran the bakery next door, played chess with the retired professor down the street, and traded gardening tips with the librarian who stopped by every Thursday. One morning, I was arranging a bouquet of white roses when the door chimed. I looked up and froze. Natasha Monroe stood in the doorway, looking thinner than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans and a sweater instead of her usual power suits. There were dark circles under her eyes, but she looked more real, more human than I'd ever seen her. Ryan, she said softly. I set down the roses carefully. Miss Monroe. This is unexpected. She stepped inside, glancing around the cozy shop filled with flowers and soft afternoon light. I had to search for 3 weeks to find you. You really disappeared. That was the idea, I replied neutrally. What brings you here? She was quiet for a moment, then said, I broke off the engagement with Cameron 2 months ago. I waited, saying nothing. He wasn't the person I remembered. Maybe he never was. I was so obsessed with recapturing the past that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. She looked directly at me. You were never just a contract to me, Ryan. Somewhere along the way, you became the person I looked forward to seeing every day. The person who knew exactly how I took my tea, who carried me to the hospital, who made me laugh when I was drowning in work. Natasha. I know, she interrupted quickly. I know I have no right to say any of this. I treated you like a transaction, and when something shinier came along, I pushed you away. I was cruel and selfish. I studied her carefully. Why are you really here? Because I can't stop thinking about you, she admitted, her voice breaking slightly. Because every time I come home to that empty apartment, I expect to smell something cooking. Because I reach for my phone 100 times a day to tell you something funny or frustrating, and then I remember I have no right to anymore. She took a shaky breath. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to take me back. I needed you to know that you mattered. That you still matter. That losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. The shop was silent except for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. I could see her hands trembling slightly at her sides. Natasha, I said finally, my voice gentle but firm. I spent most of my life being what other people needed me to be. The Harringtons needed a shield. You needed a convenient husband. Amy needed a mark. And I let it happen because I thought that was my role. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. But I'm done with that now, I continued. I built this life for myself. No scripts, no expectations, no roles to play. Just me, living on my own terms. I understand, she whispered. I'm sorry for disturbing you. She turned toward the door. However, I added, and she stopped. There's a cafe 2 blocks down. They make terrible coffee but excellent pastries. I go there every Saturday morning at 9. She turned back, hope flickering across her face. If someone happened to show up there, I said carefully, and if that person was willing to start from the beginning as a real person, not a boss or a contract or a role, well, I might be willing to share a table. A small, genuine smile broke through her sadness. Just coffee. Just coffee, I confirmed. And conversation. Like normal people do. And if that person wanted to keep showing up. Week after week. I picked up the white roses I'd been arranging and held them out to her. Then I guess we'd find out where the story goes. No contracts. No guarantees. Just, whatever happens. She took the roses, cradling them carefully. I can work with that. Saturday. 9 o'clock. Don't be late, I said with a slight smile. I won't, she promised, and for the first time in a long time, I saw genuine happiness in her eyes. She left the shop, and I watched her walk down the street through the window, holding the roses like they were precious. Maybe this would work out. Maybe it wouldn't. But for once, it would be real. 6 months later. The flower shop was thriving. I had hired a local college student to help out part-time, which gave me more freedom to actually enjoy my life instead of just maintaining it. Natasha had kept her promise. Every Saturday at 9, she showed up at the cafe. At first, we talked about safe things, books, movies, the weather. Slowly, the conversations deepened. She told me about the pressure she'd felt her whole life to be perfect, to never show weakness. I told her about the loneliness of being someone's placeholder, never quite real enough to matter. We started seeing each other outside of Saturdays. Quiet dinners. Long walks on the beach. She learned to cook, badly, hilariously badly, and I taught her patiently. I met her parents again, this time as myself rather than a contract employee. They liked me better this way. One evening, As we sat on my small balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance. For teaching me that real is better than perfect." I wrapped an arm around her. "Thank you for finding me. For being brave enough to try again." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Somewhere out there, Oliver was probably still trying to prove himself. Sophia was probably chasing after someone new. Amy was back in her gilded cage, playing new games. But I was here, in this moment, with someone who saw me as a person rather than a role. No scripts. No plots. No predetermined endings. Just two people, building something real together, one day at a time. And honestly, that was the best story I could have asked for.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना।